reigning double champion, both Super Cup and British champion, 27 years of age, Jamie Whittam, and he will be bidding for World Superbike honours this year on the Ducati, and runner-up in the 1993 World Superbike Series, Carl Fogarty, fell yesterday qualifying here, but I have to say very much the fancied man for the honours in this, the first leg, 15-lap first leg, Fogarty the man to watch. The conditions here belie the sort of things we've had to put up with during qualifying. The 2.5 mile Donington circuit, as the riders leave the start, they go down towards Redgate, 85, 90 miles an hour into Redgate, sweeping away through Hollywood, the right-hander, down through Craner curves to the old hairpin, the right-hander, the old hairpin, away then Starkey's Bridge, the left-hander up through the gearbox towards McLean's, hard right, up the hill towards Coppice, onto the fastest part of the circuit, 150 miles an hour plus along here on these big bikes, through the S's and all the way down the hill towards the Melbourne hairpin, down into bottom gear. The climb to Goddard's completes the lap. They have 25 laps, 15 laps to do, I beg your pardon, 37.5 miles. The wind gusting, you can see the flags here telling you the story about the conditions. It's been very tricky indeed. We've had snow, we've had very, very wet warm-up conditions. The riders coming in off their warm-up lap to reform on the grid. Mark Farmer, carrying the 0 on his bike, is on pole position. That's the Yamaha, then the front row completed by 3 Ducatis. Whittam there, number 1. Fell this morning, Jamie Whittam, in the wet conditions. His bike ended up looking like a motocross bike when they brought it back on the recovery truck. There was mud and grass sticking out of just about every aperture on the machine. The number 2 bike in the middle of your picture there, surprise 4th row qualifier. That's Mark Farmer's teammate. Jim Moody, runner-up in the series last year, is back on the 4th row with a great deal of work to do. The first 4 then, across the front row, Mark Farmer, Rutter, Jamie Whittam and Fogarty. Ducati, 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 but Yamaha on pole. 15 laps, waiting for the lights. All slick tyres. There's no real question of tyre choice. The sun is out, although the wind is very strong. Everyone's safely away in this, the first leg of the 750cc Superbike, and Fogarty, number 44, slotting into a very cautious 3rd place, but it's young Rutter, number 8, the 21-year-old from Stourbridge, is out there in front on the Ducati. So Michael Rutter, son of Tony Rutter, and number 8, Mike Rutter, was 3rd in the 1991 Super Teen Series, so a young man with an enormous amount of good racing ahead of him, I suspect. The distinctive yellow livery, Michael Rutter leads. Pole position man Farmer is in 6th place, and we're riding with him now. Roger, a bad start for the Yamaha man.
Yes, but he won't be too worried about that. We're coming up to Coppice Corner. This is 90-odd miles an hour. You can see the knee scraping, which I told you about in the grandstand guide of the rider in front. That rider in front looks like one of the Nortons. As they head down towards the S's, this is back down to 2nd gear. There you see Hislop, bike number 3. There's Mark Farmer, bike number 0. Well, we have our on-bike camera accelerating out of the S's down towards the Melbourne hairpin. And it's still Michael Rutter on bike number 8. Jamie Whittam on bike number 1 coming down the inside. There's Farmer.
Race leader then, number 8, Mike Rutter. Distinctive yellow, we can't miss him in the new livery, sponsored by a garden machinery company, Michael Rutter. Number 1, Jamie Whittam in 2nd place. Then it's number 44, Carl Fogarty. Then charging hard, Matt Llewellyn, who has had a dynamic start to the season. Then number 3, Steve Hislop. Then it's Mark Farmer carrying the 0, and the number 9 machine, David Jeffries from Shipley. So these first 6, this is the number 0, Farmer, pole position man. Hislop is ahead of him, the distinctive white leathers and the red helmet of Steve Hislop. We're riding with the number 0, the 6th place, and quite a bit of work to do on lap 2.
Farmer's not really getting it together like I thought he would from that pole position. Perhaps the nerves have got to him a little bit, and it's going to take him 2 or 3 laps to settle in. But as he rounds McLean's corner now on the sprint up towards Coppice, you can see the rev counter reading in up to nearly 14,000 there. The reason the needle flicks is because the rider's blipping the throttle, changing down the gearbox. You can see Hislop in front, hanging off the bike, me nearly touching the road, and let's see who's got the quickest bike. Is it the bike zero of the Yamaha of Mark Farmer, or Hislop on the Honda? And I think Mark Farmer took that place, but it's still Rutter from Whittam, Fogarty, and Farmer did take that place from Hislop. David Jeffries trying to catch up with Farmer, but it's now Whittam that's taken up the running.
Well, they were climbing all over the back of the number 8 bike, but he's now in second place. So young Mike Rutter, number 8, down into second. The new race leader, reigning champion James Whittam, who is using this race here at Donington Park very much, as is Carl Fogarty, number 44, very much as a pre-season opener for the World Superbike Round 1, which will be held here at Donington Park on May the 2nd. Fogarty squeezing through on the 955cc factory Ducati, sponsored by the Italian manufacturer from Bologna. Carl Fogarty very much a full works rider. Number 44 then, Fogarty up to second. We predicted yesterday during qualifying that the battle could well be between Whittam and Fogarty. It's shaping up like that, although it's early stages in the race. James Whittam, 27 years of age, from Huddersfield, leads. Second place, number 44 from Blackburn, Carl Fogarty. Then the 21-year-old number 8. Then it's still number 6, Matt Llewellyn from just down the road. Fifth place now, pole position man, Mark Farmer, back from a season in Malaysia, and we are now riding with Farmer. The gap, though, you can see the leading 4 riders some half a second ahead, and Farmer going in very quickly on the brakes. Roger, he's making a bid.
Yes, I think he settled down in the race. His nerves were perhaps on edge before. He's not used to being in pole position. It's a new ball game for him this year with the new Yamaha team. There he is, Hislop still shadowing him. You see the rev counter needle not appearing, and as the revs go up, the back wheel tries to spin. The bike lifts the front wheel slightly before back down the gearbox into Goddard's. There you see the leaders, and it's still James Whittam from Fogarty. Fogarty's going to be using this as a test session really for that new bike, but he's certainly not going to want Jamie Whittam to beat him, because Jamie Whittam is actually on the 1993 bike that Fogarty campaigned in the World Championship.
And not only was that bike ridden, as Roger said, by Carl Fogarty in the World Championship, it's also a revamped version, or a bigger version, of the 888 Ducati. It's got a big board kit which brings it up to 926 cc's. And just to clarify this formula for you, it does say, the regulations state that 4-cylinder Japanese type machines must be a maximum of 750 cc's, but if it's the twin-cylinder variety of European manufacture, then 1,000 cc's is the limit. And look at these two, a pair of Ducatis, and the Italian factory have just about eclipsed the Japanese at the 1994 season. Cagiva won the 500cc Grand Prix just last week in Australia. Roger, are we about to see the Japanese pushed into the back of motorcycling?
I think the Italians have done particularly well, and the Ducati is a thoroughbred race bike. Fogarty's new bike is one that most people have gone into their dealers' showrooms and placed an order for. Let's not forget that these motorcycles can actually be purchased over the counter in not such a hotted up form, but they're virtually road-going machines. Whittam's certainly getting the best out of his, and he'll be looking forward to getting his 1994 bike as the year goes on. But you see Fogarty's bike lifting the front wheel. It's very, very light by comparison. So Jamie Whittam, number 1, Carl Fogarty, 44, Michael Rutter, number 8, Matt Llewellyn, number 6, Mark Farmer, number 0, Hislop, number 3, and Jim Moody there making ground up.
The number 2 bike behind Farmer. We're riding with Farmer now, the Yamaha man and his teammate Jim Moody is now right behind him. Moody coming through from a very slow start, a slow qualifying place. There's Moody number 2. Hislop is the Honda filling in the Yamaha sandwich, and Steve Hislop in pursuit of this man, Mark Farmer. So the Yamaha pairing a bit further down the order than team boss Rob McElnay would have liked, but nevertheless, the race leader, James Whittam, still fending off a determined challenge from Carl Fogarty, and that's given Carl Fogarty the opportunity he wanted. An enormous wobble from James Whittam, and Jamie was lucky not to go on the grass there, Roger.
He was. He applied the power a little bit too soon. The back wheels slipped, and he gave the back end stepped out, which caused him nearly to lose control. He hung on to it, but it gave Carl Fogarty the edge to get through. And this is it. You see Carl Fogarty close on the tracks of James Whittam. James Whittam's now starting to ease that throttle out with his right hand. Too much a little bit. It wriggled. It's about to throw him over the handlebars, a bit like a bucking horse, but he kept hold of it, and Fogarty goes through.
He doesn't look like a man who fell heavily in practice this morning, does he? He hasn't dented his enthusiasm at all. He's still charging just as hard. But number 44, Fogarty, runner-up last year in the World Superbike Championship, and it could be argued that this venue, Donington Park, is where Carl Fogarty kissed goodbye to his title hopes last year, because he threw it away in fairly dramatic style in the round here. So he will be wanting to find out all the hints and wrinkles of Donington Park, ready for the May the 2nd season opener. Arch rival Scott Russell is the man in the series he's got to beat, but of course the number 1 rider, Jamie Whittam, is also doing the full series this year, and undeterred by that almost tumble. I say almost tumble because he was out of the seat. It nearly ejected him over the perspex. Whittam is still pressing on, by no means given up. But young Michael Rutter having the ride of his life, Roger.
And there we've got the top 6. Fogarty, Whittam, Rutter, Llewellyn. Moody's up to 5th. Hislop there in 6th, and this is back with the leaders. You can see the distance there, back to 4th place, and that 4th place is Matt Llewellyn. You can see Moody coming through now on bike number 2. He's about to overall Matt Llewellyn, I do believe. Back with the leaders now, and the main difference between these first 2 Ducatis is you can see Fogarty's exhaust there under the seat. Whittam's come out below the seat on 2 brackets. There's the exhaust on Fogarty's bike. That's one of the main differences, the way the plumbing's done under the seat with those exhausts, making it so much more stable at high speed.
Well, number 44, Fogarty's bike, a one-off from the Bologna factory, a 916cc Ducati with a long stroke kit, which brings it up to 955 cc's. So a very big torquey motor and a tail ender now ahead of Fogarty means that James Whittam, who has just gone round in the fastest time, that's Mark Farmer. Mark Farmer is on the grass at the side of the start-finish straight. The rider frantically trying to pick the bike up, giving you the camera's eye view of the tarmac of Donington, or rather the grass. And poor Mark Farmer devastated. Not a good start to his campaign. He would have gone maybe over the top coming out of Goddard's, I suspect.
I would suspect he'd lost the back end coming onto the start-finish straight, but meanwhile back with the leaders, and it's still Fogarty from Whittam. But look at Michael Rutter hanging in there on bike number 8. He's really giving these 2 world-class riders a run for their money, and really nobody would have believed that before this event started. Michael Rutter had a very lean season by comparison last year. He's now on board with Ducati, and it seems to be working out for him. But I guess that the lap times are some sort of 3 seconds off the lap record, and that really signifies the fact that these guys have had a lot of wet practice here at Donington over the weekend, very little dry track time, and their bikes won't be set up for these dry conditions to do lap record speeds, and the weather's still against us as Fogarty rounds a back marker there, chopping him up, and that could have held Whittam up, but no it hasn't, and Rutter's still hanging in there. This is going to go all the way, I really do believe that.
Sensational debut for the Ducatis here in the Supercup series, round 1 here at Donington. Carl Fogarty then, Superbike contender, ahead of James Whittam, reigning champion and world Superbike contender. In 3rd place, the 21-year-old Michael Rutter, riding number 8. On the machine, with which Carl Fogarty won the Northwest 200 last year, and on the Nes Farmer, drowning his sorrows with water in the pits. Now that's not a good start. I think Farmer will have lost the rear end coming out of Goddard's on the grass, and Farmer fell on the grass and is out of the race. The machine also being ridden by number 8 Mike Rutter was campaigned here in the World Superbike round by Neil Mackenzie and ridden to 3rd place. So there's no question that the 888cc is more than capable of the job, Roger.
Lap 8 out of 15 there. You can see the leaders there: Fogarty, Whittam, Rutter, Llewellyn, Moody and Hislop. Hislop hanging into 6th place. That's the first Honda in the race, the new RC45 Honda, but these are Ducatis, and it's in the shape of Fogarty, number 44, from Whittam on number 1. There's a lot of needle between these two riders. They've got a 13-round World Championship program to contest between the two of them. They want to come out the top Brit, of course. Fogarty finished 2nd in the series last year and was the top Brit. Whittam shone immensely, but concentrated on the British Championship during the 1993 season, but he's definitely wanting to beat Fogarty in this one.
About halfway through this race now, and these two, Fogarty, number 44 from Blackburn, still ahead of reigning champion James Whittam, and due to a clash of dates, these pair will not be able to contest the whole 11-round series, so it's vital that they get good results in the rounds that they are able to do. Not true of the Yamaha team there. The Yamaha team intend to go the whole series, and certainly Jim Moody, the runner-up in last year's championship when he was riding Norton, is very keen and has set his sights on winning this domestic series for Yamaha. But Ducati first, Ducati second, Ducati third, and that little slide that Whittam had just hasn't dented his enthusiasm at all. They're easing away now from the 3rd place man, the number 8 bike of Michael Rutter, but I keep going back to the fact that it's a tremendous ride, a very mature ride for Mike Rutter in 3rd place, just 21 years of age, and a wealth of talent, a wealth of experience. What a bright future this man's got ahead of him.
Rutter certainly has got a bright future, and many people will be impressed by his performance here. Watch out for Fogarty there, blipping the throttle with his right hand as he goes down from 6th gear all the way down to 1st gear for the Melbourne hairpin. Opening the throttle up, you can see the throttle working on the right hand of the rider, the clutch there on the left hand operating, the clutch there on Whittam's bike as they ease the power, and it's Whittam back in front from Fogarty. The bike's front wheel's lifting on Fogarty's bike. That signifies that he's got his weight distribution slightly wrong. It's very lively on the front end and very twitchy. And who would believe, as Barry said, that these two guys have both stepped off those machines at 100 miles an hour plus during the weekend.
Jamie Whittam really going for it. Number 1 then, James Whittam, reigning Supercup, reigning British champion from the 1993 season. He won 7 races in the 93 Supercup championship, James Whittam, and finished runner-up in others. He was almost invincible on the Yamaha, hence the Ducati people spotted the talent and they had no hesitation in getting pen to paper for James Whittam for the World Superbike Series, and at 27 years of age, a great talent. Look at the gap. These are the leading 3. James Whittam number 1, then it's Fogarty. Now way down in Coppice we can see number 3, Steve Hislop. Hislop hotly pursued by number 2, Jim Moody. Number 6 is Matt Llewellyn, the local man from Glenfield. And Llewellyn had a win at Cadwell. He worked very, very hard at Alton last weekend. So Matt Llewellyn very much the man in form and a bright future after a series of injuries in the 92-93 season. Race leader James Whittam from Huddersfield. On the inside of a back marker, Carl Fogarty. Roger, let me ask you a question. James Whittam's obviously riding very, very hard. Has Carl Fogarty got something in reserve?
Well, as I've said, the bike that Jamie Whittam on is the lap record holding machine around this Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. The bike that Fogarty's on is the bike that they hope will hold a lap record after the World Superbike round in 1 month's time here. Fogarty told me that he was using this race as a session to actually set up the bike. That's Fogarty on 44 that I'm talking about. Whittam getting a snake on again there and losing the back end. Probably a wrong tyre choice for him, but these two now quite a way in front of Michael Rutter in 8th place. Hislop still in 4th, Moody in 5th, but it's going to be all about these two men now. Fogarty getting a twitch. I think they're upping the pace slightly. They've come to about 2 seconds off the lap record now, so upping the pace as we get into the closing stages of this race.
The top 6 then, Whittam, Fogarty, 1st and 2nd, as you can see. Then it's Michael Rutter, Steve Hislop on the 1st of the Hondas, Jim Moody on the 1st of the Yamahas, and Matt Llewellyn hanging on grimly to 6th place, so well in the leaderboard. The points for this, 20 points for the win, 17 for 2nd, 15, 13, 11, 10, and all the way down to 1 point for 15th place. And there are 2 of these Superbike legs in each of the 11 Supercup rounds. So for this year, the governing body of British motorcycle sport have condensed the Supercup and the British Championship, and to simplify the thing, we now have one very, very high-profile series.
Yes, I think that's been a very positive step. You see Whittam come up out of the screen then, leaning the bike over, the knee touching the floor. You can see the knee slider there on Jamie Whittam's left leg up in the air, gauging the angle of lean, and now they're really starting to try. I can sense that the pace is starting to get hot. Fogarty is wanting to plan his move, and it's all about who's going to lead going into the last lap, because Jamie Whittam is noted for his dynamic braking potential, and Fogarty will go through a gap that isn't there, so we've really got a good finale to this race on our hands, Barry.
44 Fogarty then closing in, very much in the hunt, and still James Whittam's Ducati shaking his head a little bit, just protesting there as they exit the right-hander of Coppice. Now just see how these bikes compare, neck and neck, onto the fastest part of the circuit. You saw a flick from Whittam's elbows, he grabbed another handle of the throttle, down the gearbox he goes, left hand working frantically on the clutch, the knee out on the tarmac, out through the S's again, and in the distance, just barely, the yellow shape of Mike Rutter, who is still in 3rd, but almost slipping back now, with Hislop still some 5-6 seconds adrift. So a 3rd place is looking fairly safe for Michael Rutter, and I wouldn't like to put the week's wages on which of these 2 men is going to come home first.
No, me neither, but Fogarty's looking down. You see that crouch position for maximum aerodynamic effect, as we explained on the grandstand guide. Up they come, out of the bubble, maximum visibility. I can see some mist on the inside of Whittam's visor. That's coming from his breath against the cold air on the outside of the visor. I just hope that doesn't deter his vision somewhat. Fogarty's looking for the outside line there. It's not going to be possible. Now he's looking again on the inside. Whittam's not going to let him through in the old hairpin, 95 miles an hour through there. 3rd gear, 4th gear, now 5th gear. The next corner, this fast left-hander here, is where Jamie Whittam fell off this morning in the warm-up, but he's still going through there very, very fast indeed. Into McLean's, there is a slower rider that they're going to encounter, but I don't think that's going to hold them up too much, as they will pass him when they get onto the straight.
Well, the point Roger Burnett made there about the air on the, or the breath on the cold visor, absolutely true, because the sunny conditions you're seeing belie the air temperature. It's bitterly cold here at Donington, a very cold, strong wind, and Roger, that opens up the question of tyres. They're not going to go off in a 15-lap race. In fact, I doubt if the tyres have got as warm as they would have done under normal race conditions.
No, and of course they haven't had any dry practice to really try different tyre compounds to see which one's going to be suited. They can only go on really on the technical advice from the tyre companies, but it doesn't seem to be holding them up at all, although I would say that their suspension setup is really the most critical on these very light and fragile machines.
Moving now into the last 20% of this race, as it were, the closing stages, and James Whittam, apart from that one very tricky moment where he almost lost it coming out of Redgate, once he hit the front in this race, has really shown Carl Fogarty a clean pair of heels on the penultimate lap there, and Fogarty is looking to the right, looking to the left, and I have a sneaking feeling that the wealth of experience under Carl Fogarty's helmet is just sizing up James Whittam, keeps showing him the front wheel, as much to say, well, I'm here, Jamie, 1 foot wrong and I'm through. And it does appear to me that Fogarty is playing a waiting game.
Well, riding so closely as he is with Jamie Whittam, he'll be able to do a direct comparison test between his new bike to his last year's bike, and the last year's bike is being ridden by James Whittam there. He'll do a direct comparison. He knows which one's got the best top speed, acceleration and so on, and it's really only Carl Fogarty that knows if he can win and where he can make the overtaking manoeuvre. He's going to be looking for a clean manoeuvre. It's not going to be down into any of these braking areas because Jamie Whittam is too good for that. I would suggest it's probably going to be on one of the faster corners where Fogarty feels that he's got the edge. But let's not forget that Fogarty has a full World Championship programme ahead of him this year, and he's not want to make any kind of slip-up and cause any injury before the season really starts for him.
About to start the last lap, 2.5 miles then of the Donington Park sun-drenched, if a little bit cold, circuit for these two riders to do. We're looking then at the battle for the win in this first leg of the 750cc Super Cup, round 1. Fogarty in second place, number 44. Where will he choose his moment? Looking on the tight line there, Whittam knows his way around this circuit. But as Roger said, Carl Fogarty is not going to throw caution to the wind. He has the whole of the 94 world season ahead of him, but a win here to set the bike up would be nice. And Fogarty is looking very threatening now. James Whittam hanging down with his knee on the tarmac. Up they come, the rise towards Coppice then. Fogarty shows a good line on the inside at the S's. It's a question of whether he can squeeze past on the inside of James Whittam. A last word from Roger Burnett.
Fogarty's got the lead now. He got a better drive out onto the straight, and that was important, but James Whittam's is all locked up coming up the inside, and as I said, Jamie Whittam is very, very hot on the brakes. It's a good man that beats Whittam on the brakes, but now Fogarty looks like he's got a good drive out of the S's. He'll be looking, he's got the inside line this time, and he's blocked out James Whittam.
The Melbourne hairpin. Has Whittam's bike got the power up the climb? I think a superb outriding manoeuvre by Carl Fogarty has got the win. One left-hander then, Goddard's it is to negotiate, and the checkered flag is ahead of them. Fogarty, number 44, is going to take it from Jamie Whittam. A terrific race from this pairing, and a popular victory. James Whittam, though, almost a match for the runner-up in last year's World Series. Over the line goes Mike Rutter, number 8, for third. Steve Hislop on the Honda coming home a few seconds adrift. Race winner confirmation. Well, Roger, a good opener.
What a fantastic opening race. I'm sure that Carl Fogarty will be delighted with that. Jamie Whittam, a good opening ride for him on a Ducati. Fogarty did have a bit of luck there. He demonstrated at least that he can plan a strategy, and he won the race purely on planning, and that is confirmation of the result. So it was a win for Carl Fogarty on the Ducati. James Whittam second place Ducati, Rutter third Ducati, Hislop fourth Honda, Jim Moody coming home fifth on the first Yamaha, and Llewellyn again a Ducati in the top 6.
With the 1:25s on their warm-up lap for the restart of what will now be a two-part race, that is the position that they finished at the end of 6 laps. We have a further 9 laps to do. Hatton, Appleyard, Maudsley, Lofthouse, Patrickson and Corrigan, and I'm delighted to be able to tell you that the 2 riders involved in the incident are on their feet and have walked away but will not take part in the restart. Both riders then fit. We now have 9 laps. It will be an aggregate. The times will be added together, and the captions you see during this second part of the race will be the overall positions. So an exciting prospect of Andy Hatton on a revamped pole position, having been in the lead at the point at which the race was stopped. And both Roger Burnett and I are under no illusions that the riders will be trying doubly hard, if that's possible, in this second half of the proceedings. Andy Hatton, number 8. There's Robin Appleyard. Number 4 is Kevin Maudsley, just fiddling with his steering damper there. A final adjustment from Maudsley, and moving in to place Mick Lofthouse on the blue number 2 Yamaha. And a good start by Lofthouse, who paddled away. Just be interesting to see if he incurred a penalty for that. I don't know. It looked as though he almost jumped the start. And Appleyard is trailing halfway down the straight. Robin Appleyard, number 1, had a dreadful start, and he's at the back of the pack. So Appleyard with it all to do now. And it was Andy Hatton who got the jump. Number 8, there's Appleyard. Disconsolate Appleyard. That bike is not running. Appleyard is retiring. Hatton, number 8, leads then. So that'll take Robin Appleyard out of the proceedings. Right with him is Kevin Maudsley, number 4, in second place. Then it's Mick Lofthouse, number 2. And we will expect Steve Patrickson, number 3. And there he is in 5th. But the man ahead of him, number 9, is Paddy Corrigan, a former teammate of Maudsley's. Number 9, Paddy Corrigan. And every bit as frantic. Poor Robin Appleyard, he'll be devastated by this start to the season.
Well, I would imagine that his bike flooded. There he is on his own. He's definitely retiring. He'll be touring around and going back into the pits. There's a problem with that, probably a flooded carburettor. But it's back at the front. It's Hatton from Maudsley, from Lofthouse on bike number 2. We've got to give them a lap or so to get back into the swing of this, because it was really frantic stuff before. Darren Barton, number 40, Patrickson, number 3, coming at the inside, so Patrickson wants a part of the action.
Number 3 then, Steve Patrickson, very much in 5th place this time. He was working hard on lap 6 before the stoppage to get himself in the front 4, and he's right there this time. But Andy Hatton, the surprise of the meeting, best result in 93, was 4th place in the final round, and Andy Hatton finished up overall in 11th place in the championship. But he certainly started in style here at Donington Park. There's no doubt that he's the quickest rider on the circuit at the moment. He's now stretching away. This 9-lap second part, I remind you, will be added to the times for the first half of the race, and any caption you see will reflect the overall position and the final result. Hatton, number 8, leads. Number 4, Kevin Maudsley from Lytham St Anne's, second place. Then Mick Lofthouse, and there's a faller.
That was young Darren Barton, and he was going to be the surprise and the wild card of the race, but thank goodness he's okay. He's a young rider with a lot to prove, and he's not going to prove it by doing that.
Victory just last week at Alton Park for Darren Barton, and in the kitty litter here at Donington Park in round 1 of the Super Cup. Look at Lofthouse. Lofthouse on the inside, up to second place, giving a repeat dose of that same unpleasant medicine to Kevin Maudsley, and the battle we saw in leg 1 is about to be renewed, Roger.
Well, Maudsley's up the inside. This is what happened to poor Darren Barton. You can see him coming into the picture now. He's lost the front end, he's down the side of the bike, and the bike just slid away. It's what's called a low side crash. The bike doesn't parts company well with Darren then, doesn't make contact with him, luckily, and he's perfectly okay. That's good.
One learns by one's mistakes, I guess. Andy Hatton, number 8, out in front, hoping not to make any mistakes at all, because he's got a frantic tussle now. Lofthouse, Patrickson, Maudsley there, and there's Patrickson tucked into 4th place, the number 3 of Steve Patrickson. Paddy Corrigan and young Mark Norman, who qualified second fastest. This is the overall result, I remind you, the caption. So don't be confused by what's happening in front of your eyes. The caption reflects the aggregate and the overall positions of the two parts. Hatton, number 8 then, still very much out in front. The sun shining here at Donington as Mick Lofthouse fighting off that challenge again from Kevin Maudsley. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they get to the S's, and Hatton went wide all across the rumble strip. Hatton went wide, and through went Mick Lofthouse, and through went Steve Patrickson, and through goes Kevin Maudsley. Kevin Maudsley on the outside, And Mick Lofthouse is coming to his weak point, if I can call him a weak point, but he definitely went wide. Any ideas, Roger?
Well, I would imagine he either felt that the bike had actually seized up, or he got into a false neutral, because he just ran very wide going into the corner. He doesn't appear to be having any problems at the moment, and his left foot, his footrests are intact. And this is Andy Hatton leading the race, coming up to Coppi's corner. He goes into the corner, you can see his left foot trying to get a selection of gears there, and he's braking very hard, the suspension's compressed. He's just misjudged it altogether. I can only imagine that the bike probably temporarily seized up.
Well, look at that freight train of activity. Mick Lofthouse, number 2. Kevin Maudsley, number 4. Their old tussle revitalised here. Patrickson, number 3, in 3rd place, and Andy Hatton, having regained his composure, has got himself back in business in 4th. Still leading overall, the number 8 bike of Andy Hatton. A tremendous start to the 1994 125 season for Hatton, and he's lurking now right in the shadow of Steve Patrickson, trying to redeem that error. We're not sure what happened, maybe we'll find out, but look at him. Patrickson knows there's somebody behind, and it's Andy Hatton. Look over the shoulder from Steve Patrickson, and up the inside now comes Hatton, back up to 3rd. He's really on the charge again.
Yeah, and he's a big guy for a 125. He's much bigger physically than the other riders around him. But Maudsley leads from Lofthouse. Hatton won't be content with 3rd place, and that's the overall positions. Hatton's still leading as he goes into the S's in 3rd position in this rerun second leg, as it were, of the 125cc. He pulled something off from his visor there. Perhaps it was a tear off. Look at the left hand flicking on the clutch, going down the gearbox, and Hatton goes around the outside. That's incredible. What a manoeuvre around the outside there of Lofthouse, and now hard after Maudsley.
Well, if Maudsley doesn't look over his shoulder, he just might be persuaded into thinking this is Mick Lofthouse coming at him. And Andy Hatton still leading overall in this race. The number 8 rider in 2nd place is the man I'm referring to, and he's now tucked in. Look at them, line astern, out of the slipstream, and on the inside at Redgate, back in the front goes Andy Hatton, number 8, re-establishing himself in what he considers to be his rightful place. Kevin Maudsley, number 4, has got a distinctly different point of view, and they're weaving down through Craner curves. Look at Mick Lofthouse, true 125 racing, almost Grand. Well, you wouldn't see better than this in the World Championship.
It's brilliant, and it's 125 racing at its best. We've seen some fantastic 125 races over the years, and this isn't disappointing us. But Hatton is really on a charge, but you must remember that Maudsley, the angry gerbil there on bike number 4, leading this leg, would rather fall off if he couldn't win. He always likes to win. He doesn't mind if he falls off. So that's what you need to remember about him. Hatton in 2nd place is of like-minded attitude. He wants to win desperately, and Lofthouse coming out of the slipstream now. Off Hatton, he's going to go up the inside on bike number 2, but Hatton moves across, and those were the aggregate positions. Maudsley takes his foot off the footrest there as he changes down the gearbox, and all safely through the S's.
I'm surprised that doesn't disturb the balance going into that left-hander on such a fine line, waving his leg around the way he does. But Andy Hatton at the Melbourne hairpin is still in front. Mick Lofthouse, number 2, attacking again the 2nd place man, Kevin Maudsley, number 4. And you made reference to the fact, Roger, that Maudsley would, if he can't win, he doesn't mind falling off. It must be something to do with the air in the northwest of England, because I remember Carl Fogarty being very much in that vein. Fogarty, of course, from that part of the country, and Maudsley from Blackpool. The man leading now from Burton-on-Trent has proved time and time again that he is more than capable of running with these very high numbers in the British national scene. Lofthouse's number 2 indicates that he finished runner-up last year. In fact, Appleyard was the fastest man. Lofthouse had a couple of wins but fell very badly at Alton Park. 1.5 seconds the gap that Hatton has in the overall standings, and another twitch there from Andy Hatton, and this is really hotting up now. They're dropping Steve Patrickson, number 3, away just marginally.
Hatton then went from the lead to 3rd place, all in the space of 1 corner. And there he goes. They took down under the screen, and it's Lofthouse now taking up the running from Maudsley and Hatton, but who's going to go up the inside on the brakes into the S's? Hatton brakes very late. Maudsley goes up the inside and takes over the running from Lofthouse, and we've got a battle on our hands because these two are not the best of friends from that first leg that we saw. They were faring, bashing into each other. Are they going to do the same again? Patrickson, you can see in the background, who's not been shaken off particularly. He sets his machine up using computer technology, and a very fine job of that he does too, but it looks like it's Maudsley. There you see Steve Patrickson. There is an onboard computer on that bike. He does all the settings from that. You can see it there in the front of the screen, actually. Very good shot there. Back with the leaders now, and it's Maudsley and Lofthouse from Maudsley. Bike number 2 back in the lead, and it's Hatton bringing up the first 3, but let's not forget that overall Andy Hatton still has the lead.
A bit of a problem there. They were looking over their shoulders. I'm not quite sure. Out of it. Lofthouse with his hand in the air. Mick Lofthouse, and a surprised look from Kevin Maudsley. It was almost as though someone touched someone else, but Mick Lofthouse retiring. The race goes on. It looked for a second as though the race was going to be stopped there for whatever reason, but no, definitely still on the pace here. It's a 2-man struggle now. Kevin Maudsley and Andy Hatton, and Hatton using his right elbow as much to say to Maudsley, just give me some space, you'll have me off in a minute. It's that close. Steve Patrickson, number 3, waiting there to pick up the pieces. He might get this as a gift, the way things are going. A good start to his season as well for Steve Patrickson. Kevin Maudsley, number 4, leads. Andy Hatton, who has provided us with some stunning entertainment and is leading overall on aggregate time. If things stay the way they are, number 8, Andy Hatton, is going to win this. Maudsley, though, giving it everything he possibly can find, cresting the rise down towards the Melbourne hairpin, and it's not all over yet.
Now, Patrickson isn't being shaken off. Patrickson is a very experienced rider on bike number 3 in 3rd place. He knows that the 2 guys in front are winners, and he knows they want to win. Patrickson isn't probably prepared to mix it that close with them at this early stage in the season. He'll be looking at winning the championship, and his number 3 signifies he was 3rd last year, where Andy Hatton on bike number 8, he was 8th. But there you see Hatton coming out the slipstream of Maudsley, trying. His bike isn't quite as quick as Kevin Maudsley's, but he's running wide into Redgate. He'll be looking now to ease the power on quickly, down under the bubble again. Running very wide into the top of Craner Curves there, but still leading overall.
Penultimate lap then on this 2-part race in the 125 class. Overall leader, number 8, Andy Hatton, 2nd in this second half of the proceedings, and now the field has got itself a bit strung out. Patrickson still there in very much 3rd place, quite a strong 3rd place in fact, but something like 25 yards now the gap. Steve Patrickson from Yorkshire, Andy Hatton, the 2nd place man from Burton-on-Trent, and Kevin Maudsley, who started the 93 season with a win at Alton Park, is looking as though he might get a race win here, but he's in 2nd overall. The 2nd place man on your screen is leading the 125 race, Andy Hatton, on aggregate times. And he's now leading the 2nd part as well. So this really clears the thing up for you. If Andy Hatton can stay there, it's not only on the caption, it's visual. Andy Hatton then with an angry gerbil up the inside. Number 4, Kevin Maudsley, going down through the gearbox there, as Roger Burnett said, the left hand furiously pumping the clutch in and out as they stab down through the gears. Number 8, Andy Hatton. Next time round they will receive the marker, which will tell them they have 2.5 miles of the Donington Park circuit remaining. Leading into the last lap then, Andy Hatton, overall leader on aggregate and leader of this, the 2nd part. Kevin Maudsley, number 4, diving at the inside, but no good. Hatton closes the door. Roger, this really has been a cracking 1-2-5 to get the season going.
It's been a brilliant opening race to the series. Ask me who's going to win, and I can't really predict this one, I'm afraid, because these two guys are both winners. They're not second place men. Hatton looks like he's edging away. Of course, Hatton has the comfort of knowing that he only needs to finish on the back wheel of Kevin Maudsley on bike number 4 to actually win overall, so Andy Hatton should win this overall, but he'll want to win this individual leg as well. Kevin Maudsley, of course, should win on experience. He's the more experienced rider, but Andy Hatton is certainly having the ride of the season so far for him.
They're at Coppice, well over halfway round the final lap. Kevin Maudsley now leads. It's going to come down to the S's. They then have the Melbourne hairpin and the final left-hander of Goddard's to negotiate, but they're at the S's, and Maudsley safely through an almighty twitch from Andy Hatton in second place, and the gap now is stretched just a fraction. Maudsley there safely in front, but the second place man safe in the knowledge that he has the overall win if things stay the way they are. Maudsley then, Andy Hatton settling for second. Out of Goddard's, checkered flag in sight. Kevin Maudsley, number 4, takes it. Andy Hatton, and in third place, Steve Patrickson. Hatton indicating that there might have been a mechanical problem in those closing stages. But there you have it. Number 8 takes the overall in the 1-2-5. I presume he knows. We certainly do. Confirmation of that thrilling two-part 1-2-5cc race. Andy Hatton indeed took the win from Kevin Maudsley, who fought all the way. Patrickson got third. Appleyard didn't retire. He came in 8th in part 2, which puts him 4th overall. Paddy Corrigan and Mark Norman completed the top 6.